today. Looks like a hard problem. Looks like I've previously done it. Maybe for a contest. I don't know. Well, let's see if I can do it again. Kth smallest in lexicographical order. Given two integers n and k, return the kth lexicographically smallest integer in the range 1 to n. So if n is 13 and k is 2, you're returning 10. So this is similar to yesterday's problem where you're dealing with the ordering of the numbers in lexicographical fashion. But here you're not generating the list, but getting an element from the list. Interesting. So n should be bigger than k, or at least as big as k. And looks like it's 10 to the 9th, so it doesn't make sense to actually generate the whole array and get the kth element from it. Okay, this looks like a formula. Kind of, maybe. It's kind of like a formula. Alright, so what's the approach here? Is there a way for me to break down certain things? Let's say I have n is 256 and k is let's say k is 50. So order would be like 1, 100, or 110, 100, 101, 102, 109, 11, 110, 119, 12, 120, 121, 129, 13, 130, 131 through 139, and then 14, 140, 141 through 149. And one of these should be the 50th one. Is there a way to shortcut the calculation as to how many you can skip at a given time? So you can go 1, how many you can skip at a given time. So if you had 10, is there a way to skip x future numbers that have some starting? So maybe, okay, given current value v, can you skip x future values because they will as they are guaranteed to be less than k, guaranteed to not be k. Not be the kth value. So if you had like 1 subdivides into 10 through 19, kind of. and 10 subdivides into 100 to 109. And if k was bigger than 100, subdivides into like 1001 or 1000 to 1009. Even that might be somewhat slow. So 1 goes into 10 to 19. 10 goes into 100 to 109. 100 subdivides into 101 to 1019. That's skip enough even. So that's skip enough. How deep can you go? And the logic for how deep you can go also depends on k. Okay, so if I were to go if I knew k is 2. It's 2. Let's say k is 50. So you can say that 1 goes to 10 to 19. How do you know whether or not? Like you can individually say at the topmost level, the thing that has 1 to start with, given that this is 256, it would need to go to at least 100. So there's 100. There's at least 100 elements that will start with 1. And of those 100 elements that start with 1, that means the 50th element will start with 1. Yeah, so if this was something like, let's say, 110, I know that, do I need to count how many elements will start with 1? Because 110, I think, is still going to start with 1. Like, there's going to be 100 elements that start with 1, that's like 100 to 199. And then there's the teams, or the ones, the 10s through 19, that's another 10. And then there's 1 itself. So like 110th element would still start with 1. So it's not like I can, or maybe is there a formula? So 1, okay, so there's 10 numbers that start with 1, that's 2 digits, and 100 numbers that start with 1, that's 3 digits. And I guess 1,000 number that starts with 1, that's 4 digits. do, in terms of digits, this is a 1-digit number, and then the 2-digit numbers, and then 3-digit numbers are scattered between the 2-digit numbers. And if there were 4-digit numbers, the 4-digit numbers would be scattered between the 3-digit numbers. So, I mean, I could skip. Like skip. So, this is 110. And then I could say 1. And I could say the next 10 numbers are 10 through 19. And then when I see the 10, I can see the next 10 numbers are 100 through 109. Like, I'm thinking, if I see 1, there's probably a formula similar to, there's probably a formula to say how many things start with 1. It's like, it'd be like powers of 10 added together, like 100 plus 10 plus 1. The only issue is, the issue might be that the n itself might be less than that. So if the n itself was like, so if the numbers that start with 1 is 111 numbers, and n is, let's say, 90, and then what? Then you'd only say that the numbers that start with 1s inside that sequence would be 11. Maybe. So you do try a number, you try to skip the levels of it. So like I can do the same thing for 2 here, right? It could be 2 splits down to 20 through to 29 next. And 20 to 29 was like 20 itself split down to 200 to 209. And 200 was split down to 2000 to 2009. When I say split, I mean the next elements in the sequence would be those values. So if I have a number, I can try to skip everything that starts with that number as much as possible. It either skips everything that starts with that number, or it's going to go into the levels of the things that start with that number. Can I accurately say how many things it skips? I think so. So yeah, I think so. Because like these numbers have to be actually smaller than this n value. And if it's not, then it doesn't go. So like the 2's. Yeah. Okay. So let's say I have I have digits, or let's say I have the number digits, which is going to be how do I get number digits? Maybe string of n and the length of that string. It's 2 digits, 1 digit. I don't know if this is the quickest way, but it is a way. I mean, I could also maybe do power or logarithm. But okay, so the digits is that. And I guess I could do something like the max. The max kind of the max reach, which is the scope of, or the size of all the number of elements that would start with a certain digit. For each digit, determine the maximum number of elements less than or equal to n that start digit. So it'd be powers of 10, 1 plus 10 plus 100. So it's just 1s times the number of digits. Do I need a for loop to create that? 111, 1111. So it could be something like max reach is equal to 0 for I in range number of digits. Max reach plus equals 10 to the power of I. So max reach should be 111. I guess this should be 10 to the 0 is 1. Number of digits is 3. Oh, here the number of digits is 2. Here the number of digits is 1. Let's say this is 100. So the max reach here, okay, 111. and then for each digit I can see if the maybe I can reformulate this. K is like however many further digits away from the current digit I'm at. Maybe that helps or no. So maybe while k is greater than 0, while k is greater than 0. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. This approach, I'm thinking if I were to like decrease k by some reach amount, where the reach amount is the number of elements where the current value is starting, and then like skipping over certain sets of numbers. The issue is like sometimes those numbers might include n, or might be hitting the upper bound, and then how do you like subtract that out? Oh, wow. What if I were to I goes from 10 to 19. Yeah, like this thing right here. I goes to 10 to 19. I guess the maximum reach here would be 11. And is the maximum reach here 11? Yeah, the maximum reach here is 11. So there would be 1, and then does that make sense to say the maximum reach here is 11? So here, if n is 13, k is 2, the maximum reach is defined as the number of numbers that start with 1. But in theory, 1 goes to 10 to 19, which is 11 digits, or 11 numbers. And those, like, if you compare n to 13, or the maximum reach compared to 13, 11 is smaller than 13. That's not quite, that isn't quite correct, because only it ends up being that the reach of 1 is just 4 given the upper bound here. So because 11 is I guess because the upper bound of the things that start with 1 is bigger than n, I can't say that there's actually 11 items that will be starting with 1. I'd have to limit it. I have to go down, sink down a level. But so for instance, if this was saying I want to find the 12 things out of the first 11, the first 13. I could say that 1 could, in theory, based on having a 2-digit number here, have a maximum reach of 11 values within that list. But because the top value here is actually bigger than this thing, then 1 is not going to have a max reach of 11. It's just going to be, I have to go 1 down. I would have to say that, yeah, I would have to say that it skips something smaller than 11 things when you do ones. And how many it actually skips is going to be somewhat variable. So like this is actually going to skip 1 through 10 through 13, which is 4 values or 5 values. The issue might be if this was had more digits. Oof. Branches into 10s or 19. 10 to 19 branches. For each of those, it branches from 100 to 109. K equals 2. Wonder, can you possibly look at the look at as a queue? Look at it as a queue where when you pop things off the queue, so let's say you have a queue of 1 through 9. And you have another, and when you pop something off the queue, you're trying to pop off everything that is, well, that's the starting number. One, you have to figure out what does that starting number, how many numbers that includes, which is not trivial. Because, like, again, go to this case, if n is 13, and let's say you're trying to put 8 here, you need to know that when you move from 1, popping off that, you're removing 5 elements from the list, rather than the normal 11, because n is so small. And if there's something deeper, like we'll say 130, let's say it was 135, then you're popping off 1, 10 through kind of 13, and then 100 through 135. So 10 to 19 encompasses like 100 to 135. Well, it normally encompasses 100 to 199. But because you're doing 135, then it should really encompass 10 to 13 and 100 to 135. So that's the total of 36 plus 4 plus 1, so 41. So like if k is 50 here, 1 would actually remove 41 elements, and we're looking at the 9th element after that. Can you actually do this quickly? Smallest, the second smallest number. K is 2, 0, 1, 2. Each digit determines the maximum number of elements. So you can say 1, 1 goes 10 to 19. 10 to 19 goes 100 to 199. Guess this is all going to get hampered if the largest number with the same number of digits as n that starts with the current value is less than n. If it doesn't have that, then you can skip without really counting through exactly how many numbers there are. But if it does, if it was that, then you have to dive deeper. And then if this was like, this was to say 235, then you have to go to 2, and 2 goes to 22, 29, which goes through 200 to 209, or 200 to 299. Interesting. What if I used a stack where on the stack this was actually what it actually puts up. So on the stack there's 1 through 9, and then I pop the 1, I put down 10 to 19. like some block 10, 19. And then, so when I pop the 1, I put 10 to 19 on the stack. And then when I pop the 10 to 19, I put 100 to 199. And when I pop the 100 to 199, I put down 1,000 to 1,999. Or maybe I can do it faster than that. Like, I guess it's not fast. Well, you're skipping over powers of 10 when you do that. So you're adding like 1 and then 10 and then 100 and 1,000. So you're skipping over chunks, but you're not necessarily skipping over it incredibly fast. But then the logic is more sound because you don't necessarily go out of bounds too quickly. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's say I have a stack. I don't think I need. I think I do everything here. Let's say there's a stack that is k for k in the range of 1 through 9 because it has to be a number that starts with that. Give me a stack. So I would pop from the stack, append to the stack. So maybe this should be reverse. So k in the range of 9, and then let's say the value is 10 minus 9 minus k. Yeah. So the stack is going to have 1 at the top. Okay. And then so I can say the current value is, let's say 1, which is how far I'm in. So while the current is less than, or I guess not equal to k, and let's say I take let's say so do I put down, so this is going to be something like I put down 1 and then I put down 10 and then I put down 110, or put down 1, put down 10, and then I put down 1, put down 10, put down 100. So if I put down 1, and then I put down 10 on, so I popped 1, put down 10, includes 10 to 19. Oh. 1, put down 10. 10 includes 10 to 19. Then 10 to 19 can include 100 to 199. And then 100 to 199 can include like 1,000 to 1,999. So when I pop off the 1, if that number times 10 minus 1 is smaller than n, then I need to push onto the stack the upper bound, I guess, so that I can count it, so I can count everything in that level. So if I have 1 and I see that 1 times 10 is 1 times 10 is 10 minus 1 is 9. If that number times 10, that number times 10 plus 10 is smaller than n, so 1 times 10 is 10 plus 9 is 19. So 1 goes to 19. And because 19 is less than 13, 19 is bigger than 13, then I know that I need to count everything from 10 to 19. And then I need to also check for everything between 10 and 19. So I'll go 1. Can I push onto the stack 10 to 19? And pushing on the stack 10 to 19 is pushing onto the stack. After that, 100 to 199. Or, yeah, 100 to 199. And then each time I pop off the stack, it's like I'm popping off a block of 10 or a power of 10. So the block would be that number times 10 plus 9. The starting value of the block. The 19 times 10 is 190. I think I need to just think about how this might be approached systematically. I need to formulate the actual What am I thinking of? So popping off 1, I put down 10 to 19. And then popping off 10 to 19, I put down 100 to 199. And popping off that, I would push down 1,000 to 1,199. And if any of these things are bigger than n, anything of these things are bigger than n, then I wouldn't push it to the stack. So if n is, let's say, 256, then I would push onto the stack 10 to 19 because those values are all within n. Similarly, I would push onto the stack 100 to 199, and then when I pop that, I would push this, but because this is bigger than n, then I would just pop this off, and the stack becomes 2, becomes 20 to 29, which becomes 200 to 299. I guess. So let's say n is, let's say k is 230. So what does that mean? So you'd go through all the 100, go through all the ones, then go 2, and then you go 20 to 29. Doesn't seem right. Because 20 to 29 would include things that are probably end up being somewhere in k. Like 29 is probably not going to be after k, after the 230th element. So how would you know that? I guess if you would only push onto the stack if the element itself, if the upper bound of the block is lexicographically before k. No, that's not the reason. You would push onto the stack. It's 230. E2, we see 20 to 29. See 20 to 29. So let's say so I have a test case. Oops. 230th element is 75. Okay, actually, so it actually does go past everything that's like starting with 2s. Well, what if it didn't, right? What if it was something like 2, 2, 19? Thought this one would be also starting with 2. Let's say it was like, really? It doesn't start with something that's like 2? I thought there'd be 111 elements starting with 1, and then 111 elements starting with 2s. So 219 would be within the 222 starting elements. Okay, let's say it's the 111th element. I mean, this should be 111. Or 199, yeah, that's right. And then 112th one should be 2. Right. Alright. Okay. And then the next 111 elements, or that plus the next elements should be starting with 2s, no? Why would it ever go to 6s? So let's say the 200th element. This would be 200, like 80 something maybe? Huh. It's 48. Oh, I see, because it doesn't go through 200 to 299. Yep. Right. So 20 to 29, those values would be in there, but not necessarily in order, would it? No, I guess those values would be there in that order. I mean, certain of these numbers are going to be interspersed between 20 to 29. That's the issue. Or is an issue, I think. Because you can't really skip over them if you were to like have a stack that pushes and pops and has some sort of implied assumption that you can only skip over to certain things that can't be considered answers. So if this was, let's say, this goes up to 201, and k is, say, 115 or 116. This is probably going to be something that starts with 3. One under 11 is, oh no, 111 is 199, 112 is 2, 113 is 20, 114 is 200, 115 is 201, 116 is 21. Yeah. And then like 117 is 22. And 17 through the next whatever is the 20s. Okay, so how would that work here? push 1, 1 goes off and you have 10 to 19. 10 goes off and you have oof. Alright, I need to take a break. Alright. What to do. Given two integers n and k, kth lex. So if I were to say that 2 goes to 20 to 19 as the next set, I can consider that is all of 20 to 29 going to be under n. That's true. All of 20 to 29 is going to be part of n. Can I skip all of 20 to 29? Is the next question. And that would be true if everything that starts with everything that would start with 20 to 29 is so what if I made it so that I actually had two made it so that I had a queue where I go both directions, or a stack where I go in and out of certain blocks of values. So so because 20 to 29 is smaller than n, then I go down deeper and say that is 200 to 299 smaller than n. And because it's not all smaller than n, then I break that down into certain components. And then when I pop off the stack, so when I pop off the stack, it pops off certain values from the stack. Okay, so what was the example here? 201 and k is 117. So my initial stack is, let's say, 1. And then 1 goes to 10 to 19. And then 10 to 19 is all below n. So 10 to 19 goes to 100 to 199. And that's still all below n. And that goes to 1000 too. That none of that works. So I would say that I don't go there. Or I could even say that 1000, the lower bound there is going to be 1000. 1000 is not smaller than n, so that's not going to work. So here, this block represents 100 values. And if the block represents 100 values, and when I pop it, I would be removing 100 values from k. The issue is that these 100 values are interspersed between these values here. So if the k is, let's say, 105, then I couldn't just pop off this thing and say that none of these values is the correct value. So to 10 to 19. 10 to 19 represents at least 10 values, but it could be 10 plus some number below that. Some number of values interspersed between the 10 to 19. Like 10 goes to 100 to 109, then 11, and then 110 to 119. So certainly 1 can also be thought that way. 1 is not just 1, it could be 10 through 19, it could be 100 to 199. So the scope scope is an issue, the ordering is an issue. So I do 10 to 19. Push 10 to 19 onto the stack. And then I push 100 to 199 into the stack. Do 201. Oof. 1, 10 to 19. 10 goes to 100 to 109. 100 goes to 1000 to 1009. 109 goes to 1090 to 1099. So 1 pushes 10 to 19. When I pop the 1, I say that 1 is removed from consideration. When I push 10 to 19, I'm considering those values and anything interspersed between those values. So when I pop when I pop 10, push it onto the stack 10 through 19. That's just going through every single number. Push onto the stack a block of 10 starting with 10 plus 10 to 19. And then I push onto the stack a block of 100 starting with 100, so that's 100 to 199. So when I can only move forward, I can only say that definitively move forward if I'm at the last layer of a block. So it's like a 1, 10, 100 block that starts with 1. There's 1, there's a 10 block. No, 1, that's a 1 block. 10, that's a 10 block. 100, that's the 100 block. And because this thing, 100 to 199, because the blocks themselves don't add up to, or add up to less than k, I can't skip over all these blocks. So therefore, what do I do? Therefore, I'd have to dive into where the 105th element is. So let's say k is 301, or n is 201, and k is, let's say, 150. So there's a 2, that's a 1 block, 20, that's a 10 block, and 200, that's another 100 block. It's like 220 to 29, 200 to 299. So we know we can skip over the 1s. because there's 111 of them. And now we know that somewhere within the set of stuff 2's, there's the 150th element of this whole thing. The issue is this 10 block of 20 is not contiguous, nor is this 100 block of stuff that starts at 2, that's 3 digits. It intersperses. If it was even deeper, then it'd be like stuff that starts with 2, that's 3 digits. That's 4 digits. Interspersed with the things that start with 2, it's 3 digits. Man, I just wish I could skip stuff. Skip. Step of 1. Let's try to skip the 10s. Of 10s, try to skip the 100s. And if I didn't skip, then oof. High acceptance rate. I don't know. Not even a single hint. I wonder if there's just an easier way of thinking about this than I'm missing. The 10th smallest number. Smallest number. K is always going to be smaller than n. But n does matter because like if this was, let's say 13 versus 20, if I were to do let's say k equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. K is 5 here, then it's 13. K is 6 here, then it's 2. But then if k was 5 and n was 13, then it'd be 13. But if k was 6 and n was 14, then it'd be 14 rather than 2. So both matter. How many numbers can you skip? Start with 1. Next set of numbers is going to be 10 through 19. And then if you do skip those numbers, then you're also skipping the numbers between 100 to 199, if that's within bounds. Only I can tell. So you push to stack 1. Maybe from 1 you push onto the stack, entering 10 through 19. And then when you do that, you're pushing out to a stack, entering 100 to 199. As long as the number that you're dealing with is the upper bound dealing with is smaller than n, and lexicographically smallest. Lexicographically smallest. So 1, 10 to 19. That goes 100 to 199. Why the upper bound does matter. Or even if upper bound doesn't matter. So 1 goes 10 to 19 here. 19 is less than 13 is less than 19, so you can't do that. So you have to divide 1 and even if it was something like, let's say n was 130, you can't, like 10 to 19 would include 10 to, well 10 to 19 would be 10 to 19, but 19 is actually bigger than 130. So 19 actually isn't included within the set of, or 10 to 19 would imply 100 to 199. So does it matter? I think it does. 10 to 19. Oh. 10 to 19 will be, it would be 100 to 199. Alright, I'm going in circles. I think I need to take a break. I'm gonna restart this at some point.